Hey there! So, this video is a little bit different. I will be calling these direct. Now, the difference between tutorial, quickbit, and direct is that in tutorials, I will be going into usually detailed explanations about the things, what they do, what they could be used for, and so on. In quickbits, I will be hyper-focusing on one specific thing and how to do that thing, and just quickly showing you how to do it. And then in directs, as in this one, I will just be literally showing you how to make a thing with not much deep explanation, but still some of it. I'll just mostly be focusing on making the thing rather than, guiding you through what every single bit does. This is going to be better for people who are more experienced with the platform already. But yeah, this is mainly because different people learn better in different ways. But yeah, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to be making a user list, specifically with the radial menu, but you can also apply this to pretty much any other concept. You will just be generating slots for every user in a session. All right, so let's get right into it. Oop. First things first, we'll need to get a tool. So I'll need Resonite Essentials. Oh, we are recording, right? Yep, we are recording. Just had to double check that. Not recording. Yeah, let's start with this. So first things first, let's make a hierarchy. So we'll just get an empty object. And make a parent for this empty object and call this something like Userlist. If I could spell Userlist, that would be great. So then first the things we need is we will need the actual array that contains each user. And we'll also need a template object that's going to be duplicated for each user because there's no way to generate an empty. And then down here, this is going to be our user. Oh, there we go. And we'll need one more slot, and that's just going to be the generation code. Basically, all of the code goes in here. Now, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do the first thing that's important. I'll put a destroy on user leaf on this, which I need to remember where it actually is because it's not in utility. Was it in transform? Yeah, destroy on user leaf. Now, this is a very simple component. All it does is it essentially just destroys, as it says on the tin, the object when the referenced user is gone. Now, what we'll need is we'll need to actually grab the target user reference here, the ref source. And I'm just going to grab the username from this. And then we'll just apply this username to our template user. So now we'll be grabbing the user from here and then just simply applying that to here. And we pack that in here. There we go. And we go into here to attach a new component, Radiant UI, context menu. Let's put a submenu item source on here. Grab the name and duplicate that onto the label. Grab the actual slot and put that into here as well. Make a new child in here. Call this set name. And there we go. On the array, I'm now going to also apply a root context menu and a submenu as well as an item source. Call this user menu. You can't see the keyboard when I'm typing. Sorry about that, but otherwise you would be able to see all of the hidden UI stuff. All right, so now we have our, I should probably add a space between user and menu just so it looks prettier. And let's give it a color. We'll make it like purple-ish. Then we need to apply the items root as well as the item source here. Great. So now we'll actually start with the gen code because we actually have pretty much everything we need on here now. All right, so first things first, we need to actually disable the temp here. So that slot is going to always be disabled just in case that there's code underneath there that might run. So we go to users and we want to grab local user. I think I clicked the wrong thing. Oh, I'm still in components, not in nodes. There we go. Local user. And we'll need in flow events on start, I think is the correct one. Yes. And we want the only host to be false. So that triggers for every single person that sees this object being generated. Just in case that ever double triggers, because I have seen that happen before. Still don't know why that happens, but I have seen it happen before. We'll actually put a local impulse timeout on here so that it can only trigger once per second. There we go. And this triggering once per second, as it implies here, this is entirely local. Now, next, I'm going to check if this... we'll reference the temp slot here, and we want to check if this is null or not. Because if it is null, we just don't want to touch it yet. Not null. There it is. Don't care which one we're using, because once we plug this in here, it'll actually convert properly. There we go. After that, we're actually going to go ahead and fetch the child of that, because we're not going to be duplicating this slot, but the child of it. And the reason why we're doing this is because this way we can actually freely edit that object later. Currently, we can't really do that because we're going to be actually hard coding the reference to the user. But once we actually change it to a dynamic reference, it's actually going to be able to be changed out freely for any template object we want. There we go. So as long as the child is not null, for that user that's processing it, we will continue on true. Otherwise, we'll fall into false. Actually going to start a async task on this side here, because we're actually going to need a delay in here for something that I will show you in a second. Start async task, there it is. Now this async task is very simple. It just starts an async task. Move everything over here a bit. We can fit that in there. There we go. And the reason why we need this async task is because we will then actually go into a updates delay. And we'll say integer. So on false, we will actually wait for 90 frames, essentially. Actually, that is duration. That would be 90 seconds. We do not want that. We want 90 updates. And then after those, we will actually just trigger the if again. Why did that? All right, updates are time delay. Oh, and we actually are not allowed to do it that way. So what we'll actually have to do is we'll need to use dynamic impulses. So we'll need a dynamic impulse receiver. Call this reprocess. And then dynamic impulse trigger. And we also call this reprocess. Our target hierarchy is going to be the generation code. There we go. And that is on the next. So after 90 frames, it'll trigger our generation code again. Now this only happens, and this usually shouldn't trigger, but this only happens specifically if this child object here doesn't exist. And the reason why we want that is because we're actually going to need to duplicate this child object. So we'll go to slots, and we'll get to duplicate slot. There we go. By the way, another thing about these videos here, the directs, is I did not like pre-check like how I would make this. Like I didn't pre-plan any of this. I'm just going off the top. So get child, we will be using this as the template. There we go. And the parent it goes into is the array. There we go. And what most people would do now after doing this is they would apply something here to set persistence to be non-persistent. However, instead what we'll do is we'll attach a component to the array in, I think it's an utility. We'll add a children's save blocker, which will basically mean that anything beneath this slot hierarchy is not going to be saved. The slot itself will be saved though. Just anything beneath the hierarchy won't be saved. All right, move everything on the side a little bit, and then move the code to the side a little bit as well. So now that we have the duplicate slot here, we have one problem, and that is that currently we're not writing the actual variable. And I was telling you before that, well, we won't be able to really change this out dynamically because, well, not dynamically, but we won't be able to just replace the template if we don't set this up dynamically. I was gonna just hardwire it, but why not just like set it up properly the first time around, you know? And you don't have to redo something if you just set it up correctly to begin with. So we'll put on a dynamic variable space, call this space. Let's not call it user, because I just realized, well, that already exists. So let's just call this item. If I can spell item, that would be great. There we go. And then we want a dynamic reference, because we already actually have the thing we're wanting to reference as its field, which is right here, this user field. And then we call this item/user. And there we go. Now, after we duplicate the slot, now that we actually have this variable, we don't actually need to set the values before we duplicate it. We can do this after. So now we're actually allowed to just go into here, go to variables, grab ourselves a dynamic dynamic value variable. Wait, no, not value. Object variable of type user. We grab the local user, and we want to write item.user. Our path is the actual duplicate. And there we go. I'll just move this behind so it looks a little bit prettier. Some people like to use these kind of like 2D systems like Redprint, Blueprint, and so on. But personally, I think it's just a lot easier to follow code when you have it laid out in 3D like this, because it's a lot more natural to me as someone who has worked this way for a while. If you personally prefer to have it on 2D, actually just go for it. Don't let how other people work influence what you do, unless it makes it easier for you to work this way as well. Actually, that is incorrect. Don't want that one. We want duplicate slot and then going into here, because at the end of the day, the most important thing isn't whether you're working on this in 2D, 3D, whatever the hell. It's like whatever is easiest for you is the best. All right, there's going to be a short little cut here because I just got a call, but we're right back into it. We're almost done. Well, actually, we are pretty much done, because what this does now is on start, we make sure that we haven't done this yet within a second before. We start an async task. We check if our child exists on our templates folder. If it does exist, we go up here, we duplicate the template, move it into array, and we write our current user that is doing this onto the object. Down here, if we don't find the object, we just wait for 90 frames, and then we check again if it exists. Now, the final thing that I'm actually going to do here is I'm actually going to move both of this back a bit. And in here, I will actually throw in another updates or time delay. Specifically so that everyone doesn't make the object at the exact same time. They're just going to be doing it eventually. Because we don't really need like hyper speedy performant like menu generation on something that happens once when you load in your avatar, you know, or the object itself. So we'll give it like between 0 to, let's say, 144 frames. So it can take up to, if someone's running at 30 FPS, that's 30, 60, 90, 120. Yeah, around 4 or 5 seconds. If someone's running at 30, if someone's running at 60, it's going to be within 2 seconds. And if someone's running at 144 or 120, it's about 1 to 1.5 seconds. Not even 1.5 seconds. But yeah, all we now have to do is we'll move this back here. And we'll actually have to put this on an object, because currently this is entirely just floating, free floating, which isn't really ideal because where's the object? Where is it? It's right there, but where is it, you know? So time to do the time-honored tradition of choosing a shape for your object. Let's do a torus, because why not? No one uses toruses. Everyone does cubes. Let's be a little bit different. Let's be a bit rebellious, you know? Then we grab the user list, put it on here, grab the name user list, put it onto the torus itself, and call it user list holder. I am going to throw this into my public folder, by the way. So now that this is done, I'm actually going to go to my inventory, inventory, tutorials, ProtoFlux's tutorials. Yeah, let's just throw it into the like main. Let's just make a folder called user list. You know, why not? If I add any more stuff to it, it's going to go in there as well. And I guess let's just instead of calling this user list holder, let's call this user list version 0, because it's the very first version of it, and it's very just like bare bones. So now we save this to inventory. Wait for it to synchronize to the cloud. 5%, come on, you can do it. I believe in you. You can do it. All right, while this is syncing, I'm actually, oh, there it goes. I'm now actually going to just move this on the side, and always do this. Move your object on the side after you save it, and just, you know, make sure that if you spawn it out, that it works before you get rid of the old version. So let's go into the user list, go into the array, and we'll see ProtoFlux. So if we grab it, oh, user menu, ProtoFlux, yippee. All right, so this is it. It's done. We have made a user list. It's that simple. Now, do keep in mind right now that if we go in here, every single person in the session will show up in here. There are some ways that you can optimize this, and something that I'll be going over at another point, which is how to actually order elements in a nice fashion for user lists, such as based on distance and some other options. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this first direct, and I'll have to edit this together, and I'll see you in the next episode of whatever the fuck it is I'm doing. Where's my actual camera? There it is. See ya!